Welcome back to What Would the Fox Say? Today we have a special guest with us. I'm excited. He's going to actually be able to introduce himself, and also why he is with us today is because he has a special event that's coming up, and I wanted everyone to know more about it, especially you, our two listeners. I want to make sure we get the information to both of you so that you'll be excited to join us when we actually take this trip and be able to meet with people. So Joe, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and kind of say what is your event that's coming up?
Thanks, David, for the introduction. Yeah, my name is Joe Fabre. I'm a mostly native resident of Bakersfield, California. Been migrated to Fresno in the last, 15 years or so. But that's my hometown, though, and I've been learning a lot about financial literacy and how important it is for everybody. And so I wanted to come to Bakersfield, my hometown, and spread the word of financial literacy and how we can help people enrich their financial lives and, be better and leave behind something for their families.
You are a native resident of Bakersfield.
For the most part, yes.
Okay, awesome, perfect.
A lot of residences, but we'll call Bakersfield my native residence.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I know you're living pretty close to me, and we're not in Bakersfield at the moment.
No.
But we will be holding an event in Bakersfield for several that are down there, because I have a lot of followers that are in Bakersfield area. And I do believe also that financial literacy should be a part of every conversation, but making sure that when we are talking about that we're being specific, right? So two typical types of individuals that we're looking for at this event, those obviously that are in the military because of Joe's background, and those that are in the real estate industry. So those two we've been able to really help out here in the Central Valley, but want to continue on making sure that we're covering that in Bakersfield as well. So tell us a little bit about the event. When is it? Where is it? What should people expect?
Yeah, so the event is going to be held at the American Legion Hall in Bakersfield over on H Street. And it's going to be on March 22nd. We're going to kick off around 4:30. And we're going to have two wonderful speakers, with David being one of them, and Carlos Anzuris, who's also a mortgage professional himself. And we're going to be talking about different financial literacy topics and guiding people in what else is out there. A lot of people don't even know about options they have. I mean, most of us grow up with only what our parents tell us, which typically isn't a lot about financial literacy. It's almost like one of those taboo words, like, oh, how much do you make? And, what have you saved for retirement? What are you doing in retirement?
Right.
So it's one of those things that I think I want to break that cycle and help people realize that if you talk about it, then you're more likely to find better ways to succeed at it.
Yep, absolutely. So my beginning in financial services in 2003, I got my first license there, and kind of been 1 foot in and 1 foot out. But I was able to really start to look and see and use my parents as an example. Right, they had an individual come in, and they with a 3-breasted suit, looking all official, and he sat in front of us and basically helped my parents. They were both educators, and they wanted to give a lot back. They wanted to be able to offer a benefit to people around them. That was like their love language. But they weren't able to do that on their current salaries without getting their money to work further for them and also protect what they had. So we got to see all of their efforts come to fruition when both of my parents passed away around COVID. And they simply had a plan in place. So therefore, they weren't actually letting the state have the say of what happened to their assets. So they put a trust and a will together and made sure that all of their assets stayed in our family. They were able to put beneficiaries on there, have a will that establishes a financial power of attorney, a health directive. All of these things are very important to make sure that towards that time that everyone will be facing, you've got to make sure you have a plan for that. It's kind of like the phrase of having an estate plan is the plan that you create, because if not, you'll have to go with the state's plan. So that's probably not something you're going to like. But especially for the military, talking more about their TSP options. Many don't know, what the options are for them, even what the distribution will look like for retirement. So we'll be covering topics like that at the event, just so that they know what they are too. But you got a pretty good flyer here, Joe.
Yeah.
You caught my good side. So
well, I'm glad I could find a good side of you. That's
no, a lot of financial concepts here. No, which ones do you think are kind of really important that you wanted to kind of highlight?
I mean, the retirement, we all worry about retirement. We're on fixed incomes. Some of us believe we're going to Social Security, some don't. It depends on where we're at in our current political stance. When you get to retirement, when you have fixed income, you're still paying taxes, right? So how do we get to retirement with as much wealth and retain as much wealth as possible so we can enjoy it and not have to be shelling it out to the government, which we did for 30, 40 years prior to that? I want to get to retirement and just be able to spend it and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about those, which also involves, wealth preservation strategies of how do we, preserve it for legacies, to pass on to our families so that when I pass on, I don't have to worry about my kids having to worry about what happens to me. That's the will and trust stuff you're talking about,
right?
Which is important for that. We went through that with, Tracy, my wife, her dad, when he passed, that he had a will and trust, and we were super thankful for it. It just made everything so much easier, where we didn't have to fight with the state. We didn't have to fight over like who has access to what's there. We just had access to it, and we took care of business, and it made things so much easier. We're going to talk about how you can build your wealth with, different vehicles that can provide financial benefits and, benefits when you pass on as well.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's really important to even mention here, if you're in the great state of California, we are ranked dead last in something that's called probate, which means once you pass, if you don't have that plan in place, like that will and trust, then the state takes the longest out of all 50 states to actually be able to make a plan and distribute all of that money between your families. During that entire time, the court fees, the attorney fees, all of the state fees are going to come out of that inheritance before the family even sees it. So very important for that will and trust.
Didn't they just pass something to try to make it easier to get through probate recently, I thought?
Yeah.
I mean, but even then, though, that's not truly not having probate. You're still going to deal with the state, which is still not going to be fun.
Yeah, even simple reminders, like those of you, what you can do right now, if you have a bank account, make sure you're putting a beneficiary on your bank account. So many people don't realize, oh, I forgot that step, or, oh, I can't remember the last time I actually created my bank account. Many of them just kind of just set it up and then, they just use it. They don't think about, what happens if they're gone. Right? You want to make sure you've got a financial power of attorney so that if you can't speak on your behalf and need to pay some bills where you're still doing that, someone can actually do that on your behalf. But a lot of things on here, like the tax advantage wealth strategies that Joe was mentioning before, if you don't do something before you switch to distribution in your life, you will be paying income tax for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So very important to make sure you plan on not just how to save as much as you can and how to invest as much as you can, but also how to protect it and prepare it for distribution.
So when you say distribution, like I can't distribute money from my 401k?
Right. So many don't know that you can't actually just turn on streams of income from your 401k. Right. So you'll actually if you go through a wealth advisor, they typically go to a rule called the 4% rule. Like, don't take out more than 4% of your total account that you have, your pot of money, in fear of you actually running out. So if you have $1 million, that's $40,000 a year, but you still haven't paid taxes on it yet. So you've got to make sure it's like, okay, if you don't have $1 million, which a lot of us don't, that we're using vehicles that actually can turn up the amount that we can start taking home every year and have that guaranteed inside personal pensions.
So speaking of tax, though, doesn't Social Security have limits on income before they start reducing your Social Security benefits?
Yep. So when you are working with Social Security, depending on how much qualified money that's coming in, which means how much is taxed, right? That money is important because if you're over a maximum amount, because that changes every year, if you're over that amount, then 85% of your Social Security will also come to you taxed again. Because remember, you were taxed when it first went in. So now you're going to be taxed when it comes out, unless you're starting to do tax advantage things like backdoor Roth conversions or 72T distribution, things like that will allow you to start washing some of that money of your taxation so that it can continue to grow and be protected tax-free, getting ready for distribution in retirement. So good questions.
That's good to know. I thought that, hey, I pay my taxes all Social Security those years. Why do I have to pay tax on it again? That seems pretty crazy to me.
Right.
But knowing that there's another option I have to find ways to not avoid taxes, but to not have to pay unnecessary taxes, I guess would be the way to
tax advantages inside the tax system that most people just don't know about and need to take advantage of. So when they're talking with their CPAs, they can easily start talking about tax advantages with them. The issues with most CPAs is that they're reactionary. They're helping you pay taxes on the year you just finished. Instead of saying, hey, let's think 5 to 10 years ahead. Let's start to think about what all these qualified accounts or tax deferred accounts are going to turn into if you're not starting to move them into tax advantaged vehicles.
So hopefully it's not too late for me now, at our age to get into those plans and stuff. But what about my kids though? Is there something I can start for them now and get them going?
Well, Joe, I'm a lot older than you.
No, you're not.
Still not older than
Just because you're bald doesn't mean you're that much older than me.
So it's still not too old for me. For example, a gentleman named Peter Thiel. Everybody who's listening can go Google that up. He actually has $5 billion inside his Roth account. So, and how did he do that? He didn't do it because of the maximum yearly contributions. He did it through backdoor Roth conversions and making smart investments to make sure that that money's growing as much as possible. But without that Roth conversion, taking those old IRAs or 401ks that people just think are lost at old employers and not knowing what to do with, you actually can now roll them into accounts that you own instead of your employer, and then taking that money and starting making them tax favorable. A lot of things that you can do with that. One thing I wanted to touch on real quickly and kind of forward the conversation is the importance of something that's called long-term care. And it's something that we need to think more about, and even think about your family history. Like, did your grandparents have any issues towards, the end of life, or your parents, are they kind of struggling in one health concern area or another? Having a plan in place for long-term care today can actually save your family stress down the road. I can say from personal experience that my father, he actually took out a long-term care plan for both him and mom. And often he would come up and say, David, I don't even know why I'm paying into this thing. I always knew that, I was in this place and I needed to, and your mom had me make a promise. Says, I want you taking care of me, not just in good, but also in bad health. So what he did is he kept those in place. And when my mom developed dementia and Lou Gehrig's disease, we started receiving $12,000 a month from that policy so that we could have the doctors and nurses and care staff come to us instead of her having to go to a care facility in the middle of COVID and not being able to see her at all during that last year of her life. So it definitely paid off significantly. It paid us way more than we ever paid into it. So as soon as this happened, my dad just realized it's like, this is why I got that plan. So,
are those plans expensive to get into though?
So depending on the age and situation that's going on with, they're pretty inexpensive. Now, if you already have gone through a medical issue, the dollar amount that you might have will be elevated. However, if a medical event has already happened, like a chronic, critical, or terminal event or a chronic or critical that's happened, then that care is probably closer than you think. Right? So the ability to actually have more skilled nursing even, or having medical concerns, that amount is going to be needed to come out of that plan pretty quick. So the amount that you're putting into it is going to be protecting your future, because if you don't have a plan in place, they'll actually come after all of that retirement money, all the TSP money, all the 401k, all the 403b, all of that. Like, the government will actually go and grab it if you're needing, assistance that you can't pay for.
Yeah, I know I did a research paper in college once on life expectancy and longevity. Basically, like, can we ever get to be immortal? Essentially, there's lots of cool shows out there and stuff about that. But one of the interesting things I learned in my research is that we spend almost 3 times our GDP in healthcare costs every year. Yep. And this was like 10 years ago I was reading this. I'm sure it's probably, if not more, that now. But what's most interesting about that is that 55 years old, those healthcare costs exponentially increase and how much we pay. So, I mean, a lot of people think that, I just, it'll be fine when I get older. But I mean, as far as what I see when it comes to getting any kind of these healthcare plans or insurance or anything like that, that if you lock it in when you're young, you pay significantly less in getting these plans that are going to pay out more than what you put into by the time you get older.
Exactly. Even thinking about plans like HSAs or health savings plans, all of that money comes out tax-free when it's used for the health things. And that's one of the most unthought about costs in retirement, because most people think, oh, let me just develop a stream of income, or let me try to save this pile of money, instead of realizing that the goal really should be is how much can you receive on a guaranteed stream of income for as long as you live, and the remainder of that passing that on to children.
Well, yeah, I mean, healthcare costs are the largest costs you have in retirement. I mean, you figure you stopped working, so maybe you have a house. Let's say you have your house paid off, so there goes that right there. You still have your food budget, you still have your entertainment budget. Maybe you don't have a car because you paid it off, but then now you're trading all that for healthcare costs, which, like I said, are just exponentially increasing every year that you get older. And, you know, if you have some kind of life event like a stroke or something like that, I mean, those costs can skyrocket. I mean, if you have to do long-term care at home and pay a healthcare professional to come in your house 24/7, that could cost you $20,000 a month or more.
Absolutely. So all of these will be topics when we open up the conversation when we come to Bakersfield. You've actually kind of gone over the details before, but go over it once again for the audience about your event. Where is it going to be? The timing?
Yeah, so we're going to be at the American Legion Hall in Bakersfield. It's on 2020 H Street. We'll be there from 4:30 to about 6. We'll have some snacks and some refreshments, and then afterwards there's a bar there for anyone wants to have a drink with us. We'll hang around and talk to people, and then we're gonna, as you know, a lot of friends and family in town. Hopefully they'll come by and see us, and we're gonna head to Chewy's afterwards, and go hang out and have dinner, and maybe talk to more people and just catch up on life events. And
perfect. You said that there's a registration link, or
there is a registration link. Yep. So you can go to our website at getfinanciallyinformed.com/register, and registration link's there. Or if you find us on Facebook, we have our event post on Facebook as well that you can register from. And then, then let us know you're coming, so we make sure we're prepared for you and we have a seat for you, which is limited. We can only fit so many people in the room. Otherwise, the fire department will get mad at us.
Right.
So, yeah, make sure you reserve your seat so we actually can get you in.
Perfect. And, the man behind the curtain, he's going to put the stuff around the video somewhere here. So, yeah, down maybe
I don't know, here, over there.
There's a QR code, there's a number, there's a website. So definitely reach out. We can also set up one-on-one if you have conversations. We'll also be going over how to rescue old 401k accounts or
lost money
or lost money, so that you can recover that and actually get it working towards your retirement goals and turning it into tax-free money. So